Did you just slap that man in the face?
He deserved it.
He deserves it. What did he do?
He drank all my wine.
He drank all your wine. There's half a glass of wine there still.
That much wine.
Fuck, have I made a wrong decision in talking to this couple?
Don't condone violence against men.
You don't condone violence against men. And I don't condone yelling in the middle of a show, but we've all got things to learn. Guys, it's fine. We'll after this, we'll all go and fuck after, okay? It's going to be fun. We'll have a good time. You guys ever had a threesome? Fuck, you look like you'd struggle to have a twosome. Oh, it's funny. You're slapping your own chest now because she was going to do it anyway.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Management Wednesday, June the 26th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have the patriotic shorts, motivation, Bishop Barron, Ayn Rand, the 33 strategies of war, and management of the absurd. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. Now, let's use Stu Varney, and with the headlines.
All right, everybody, thanks for being here. Varney Company picks it up now. Stu, take it away.
All right, good morning, Maria. Good morning, everyone. The foul-mouthed anti-Semite Jamal Bowman has lost his bid for a third term as New York Congressman. A moderate Democrat, George Latimer, won 58 to 41. Bowman immediately took aim at AIPAC. That's a Jewish lobbying group, saying that their dark money had brainwashed voters. The Democrat Party is split. It's Jews versus people of color, Israel versus Hamas. Bowman vows to fight for humanity for the rest of his life. To the markets, all eyes on Micron Technologies. It's an AI leader. It reports after the bell today. The AI rally is at stake. Micron has been walked up in advance of the numbers. It's at $143 a share right now. The Dow Industrials will open to the downside, off 100 points. S&P down about 13. NASDAQ down about 43 points. Red ink so far this morning. Interest rates moving up for the 10-year Treasury, now well above 4.25%. You're up to 4.28. That's partly upsetting the market. The 2-year is just below 4.75%. It's at 4.73. The price of oil, $81, right on the button. Gas prices, a gallon of regular moving up 3 cents. 3.49 is your average, and diesel up 1 cent at 3.81. All right, politics. DHS Chief Mayorkas goes to the border today. He will announce a 40% drop in border crossings since the president's executive order went into effect. The president will no doubt use that in the CNN presidential debate tomorrow. But there are some truly shocking numbers from the border. This fiscal year so far, 13,000 criminal migrants have entered the U.S. It was only 4,200 in all of 2019. Trump will no doubt use that in the debate. The Trump campaign continues its outreach to minorities. They will host a black business leadership at the Barbershop Roundtable in Atlanta. The president still doing debate prep at Camp David, but his campaign, not him, will be giving a press briefing. On the show today, Trump's pick for vice president. No, we do not know who it's going to be. NBC speculates there will be a decision today or tomorrow. That would throw a curve at the president in the face of the face-off tomorrow. Is it Rubio, J.D. Vance, Glenn Youngkin, Doug Burgum? We don't know. But if Trump wins, his Veep is going to set up to be a future president. Wednesday, June 26th, 2024, Varney and Company is about to begin.
And that was Stu Varney with the headlines. Back in a minute. Oh, and then real quick, I do want to say Thank you. Now, Stuart Varney's My Take.
And thanks very much. Now this. Jamal Bowman has a long history of anti-Semitism. He just lost his primary. He's not happy. He says he lost because of dark money that brainwashed people. He's referring to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, which put $15 million into the campaign of his opponent, George Latimer. Bowman has taken the lid off the deep divide that afflicts the Democrat Party. Jews versus people of color, Israel versus Hamas. It's worth noting that in the heavily minority Bronx, Bowman got the vast majority of the votes yesterday. In the heavily Jewish section of his congressional district, George Latimer got the vast majority of the votes. The racial and ethnic divide will continue. As the results came in and Bowman conceded, he said, and I'm quoting now, "This will be a battle of our humanity and justice for the rest of our lives." Really? In the name of humanity, Bowman supports the brutality of October 7th? When told of the rape, murder, and yes, torture of Israeli hostages, he dismissed it as propaganda. When he looked like he was going to lose the election, he tried to walk it back. But the damage was done. Bowman is an anti-Semite, and so are the rest of the so-called squad. This is particularly difficult for New York. Jewish people in this city have already been traumatized by anti-Semitism, and now we have Bowman vowing to keep it going. His loss in the primary will no doubt come as a relief for some Democrats, but as long as a sizable chunk of the party supports anti-Semites, the party will remain divided. The split is not going away. Second hour of Varney just getting started.
And that was Stuart Varney's My Take. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Patriotic Shorts.
Private First Class Harold Christ Agerholm earned the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions on July 7, 1944, in Saipan during World War II. His award citation reads as follows: "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life, above and beyond the call of duty, while serving with the 4th Battalion, 10th Marines, 2nd Marine Division, in action against enemy Japanese forces on Saipan, Marianas Islands, 7th of July 1944. When the enemy launched a fierce, determined counterattack against our positions and overran a neighboring artillery battalion, Private First Class Agerholm immediately volunteered to assist in the efforts to check the hostile attack and evacuate our wounded. Locating and appropriating an abandoned ambulance jeep, he repeatedly made extremely perilous trips under heavy rifle and mortar fire, and single-handedly loaded and evacuated approximately 45 casualties, working tirelessly and with utter disregard for his own safety during a grueling period of more than 3 hours. Despite intense, persistent enemy fire, he ran out to aid 2 men whom he believed to be wounded Marines, but was himself mortally wounded by a Japanese sniper while carrying out his hazardous mission. Private Agerholm's brilliant initiative, great personal valor, and self-sacrificing efforts in the face of almost certain death reflect the highest credit upon himself and the U.S. Naval Service. He gallantly gave his life for his country. Harold's mother received his posthumous Medal of Honor from the Commandant of the 9th Naval District in a private ceremony, a request she had made for no public presentation. A U.S. destroyer, a combined elementary middle school in Racine, and a gun park near the 10th Marine Regiment headquarters in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, were all named in honor of the 19-year-old Harold. Originally buried in the 2nd Marine Division Cemetery in Saipan, Harold Christ Agerholm is now buried in the Mound Cemetery in Racine, Wisconsin.
Sergeant Major Vladimir Jake Jakovenko, U.S. Army retired, is inducted as a distinguished member of the regiment. Sergeant Major Vladimir Jakovenko immigrated to the U.S. and enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1958. He left active duty a year later and entered the U.S. Army Reserve. In 1961, he became a U.S. citizen, returning to active duty in 1962. Jakovenko graduated from the Special Forces Qualification Course in 1968 and served with 5th and 6th Special Forces groups. He was selected to participate in the Son Tay Raid, a clandestine mission to free American prisoners of war held in North Vietnam. He culminated his Army career as a sergeant major for the U.S. Army Western Command Special Operations Detachment in 1990. Jakovenko currently resides in Kentucky with his wife Sandy and continues to support the Special Forces Regiment.
I work 60 to 80 hours a week, and I come home and I have to live next to a goddamn RV with trash on top of it, and next to a vehicle with drug paraphernalia in the f***ing seat. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing Ted Wheeler get on every single news station and say that he understands our pain, to say that he understands where we're coming from. No, we want action. We're tired of understanding. I'm a United States military disabled veteran. I fought for this country. I bled for this country. I've given every single thing that I have to be right where I am. And I don't have much, but I worked my ass off to get it. But it's about them imposing their will on us. I take care of my family. I don't bother anybody. I don't mess with anybody. I don't have an ill will for anybody. But I should not have to go to work every single day, come home, and worry. I'm worried. I am worried that the child that is inside of this RV is potentially going to blow up because there's goddamn propane tanks and open electrical wires going 100 feet down the fucking block. And our government here in Portland doesn't seem to think that that matters. No.
Thank you. Now, a little bit of motivation.
Isn't it crazy that you can barely control you? You can barely control your own actions. You know what you need to do. You know what you need to do. It's in your mind right now, but you don't feel like doing it. You don't feel like getting up. You don't feel like doing the work. You don't feel like working hard. And if you don't feel like working hard, if you don't feel like getting up, then you better feel like losing. You better feel like getting weaker, because that's what's going to happen. That thing that you have to do that you know sucks, whether it's squats or your workout or going for a run or some paperwork or a project or cleaning up, well, the longer you wait, the longer it takes. What you need to do is brainwash yourself, indoctrinate yourself, repeat your sacred chant that discipline equals freedom. mold yourself into who you want to be.
At some point, you're going to have to learn to be disciplined. You're going to have to learn, if you say you're going to wake up at 8 o'clock, you're going to get up at 8 o'clock, no matter how you feel. And to get to the next level of success, you can't just have energy when you got energy. You got to wake up every day and you got to go get it. Why? Because if you don't hunt, you don't eat. If another human can tell you to get up and go to work and do what you're supposed to do, be the human. You be that human. If you need somebody to tell you you need to lose 100 pounds, be your own voice to tell yourself you need to. Because if you don't have personal discipline, you'll never get to the next level. The next level is not something that's far away.
When you got tasks and you got little issues going on and you got little problems and you got time and you got all these things that are aligning against you and they're not allowing you to go forward and do what you need to do, it's real simple. Don't allow them to. Just don't allow it. Just go. And procrastination dies.
You are moved, but you're not responsible for your move. Everything is external that moves you. Now I want you to start moving yourself internally. I want you to be able to push your buttons and not let anything else push your buttons. You hear people say all the time, like, yo, I was feeling it, now I ain't feeling it. That's on you. You control your feelings. Don't nobody else control your feelings. So when you tell me I ain't feeling it no more, it don't got nothing to do with something external. It's something internal that you ain't pushing no more. It wasn't the car or house that pushed you. You push you. It wasn't the house or the car or the money that pushed you. You push you, but you told yourself it was those things. You push you. You moved you. So if you're not being moved, that's on you. You're doing something wrong. You're not being able to go inside and push the right buttons. You gotta move you every single day. If you get to a point in your day and you down and out, if you get to a point in your day and you exhausted, you get to a point in your day and you're not feeling it, you can stop right there and change the mood. Get your butt up and find the strength to do what you're supposed to do. Like, yo, stop compromising. Just grind. Keep playing the game. Keep grinding. Keep working. And that other stuff will take care of itself. I need you to grind every single opportunity you get, every chance you get. And I need you to grind on the little stuff. Just be consistent. Wash the dishes and wash the dishes 100%. Mop the floor and mop it 100%. Go to work and do your work. Don't just go to work when you feel like it. Go to work every single day. Work on it every day. Even when you're down and out. Even when you're not feeling it, still do it. You got to feel that momentum. Sometimes it ain't about being the most talented. Sometimes it ain't about being the smartest. Sometimes it's about consistency. Consistency. Just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. You never stop. You never give up and never quit. Day after day. Play after play. Second after second. Minute by minute. Are you hearing what I'm saying?
You have to decide that you are going to be in control. That you are going to do what you want to do. Weakness doesn't get a vote. Laziness doesn't get a vote. So next time you are feeling weak or lazy or soft, tell those feelings they don't get a vote. You are declaring martial law on your mind. Mind control.
Every human being that is not successful versus every human being that's successful, the only difference between them is mental toughness. One group, when they come up against trials and tribulation, they shrink. And mental toughness says, not only do I climb that doggone mountain, I enjoy climbing the mountain. I get a kick out the mountain. I get a kick out the weights. I get a kick out of going up against the number one team. I get a kick out of going into the 6th, 7th week. I get a kick out of fatigue. I get a kick out of the grind. I get a kick out of it.
If you can get through to doing things that you hate to do, on the other side is greatness.
Download.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Daily Stoic.
Clarify your intentions. Let all your efforts be directed to something. Let it keep that end in view. It's not activity that disturbs people, but false conceptions of things that drive them mad. Seneca, on Tranquility of Mind, 12.5. Law 29 of the 48 Laws of Power is plan all the way to the end. Robert Greene writes, by planning to the end, you will not be overwhelmed by circumstances, and you will know when to stop. gently guide fortune and help determine the future by thinking far ahead. The second habit in the 7 habits of highly effective people is begin with an end in mind. Having an end in mind is no guarantee that you'll reach it. No Stoic would tolerate that assumption. But not having an end in mind is a guarantee you won't. To the Stoics, oasis, false conceptions, are responsible not just for disturbances in the soul, but for chaotic and dysfunctional lives and operations. When your efforts are not directed at a cause or a purpose, how will you know what to do day in and day out? How will you know what to say no to and what to say yes to? How will you know when you've had enough, when you've reached your goal, when you've gotten off track, if you've never defined what those things are? The answer is that you cannot, and so you are driven into failure, or worse, into madness by the oblivion of directionlessness.
And that was The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Bishop Robert Barron.
What makes you happy is seeking, above all, God's will for you, which is righteousness, which is right order. Once you've found that, Jesus is implying, the other dimensions of your life will tend to fall into right harmony and order around it. Go back to the Beatitudes. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. And there's that same idea. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So should I be seeking first food and drink and sex and shelter and comfort? No. Seek first the kingdom of God. Should I seek first even like intellectual attainment? No, that's fine. But seek first the kingdom of God. And then the rest will be given unto you. Your life will now find its proper harmony and order.
And that was Bishop Robert Barron. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Quote, "It is time to clarify in the public mind the pernicious confusion which it was created by Marxism and which most people have unthinkingly accepted. The notion that economic controls are the proper function of government, that government is a tool of economic class interests, and that the issue is only which particular class or pressure group shall be served by the government. The idea or possibility of an uncontrolled economy has been entirely forgotten and is now being deliberately ignored." Unquote. And that was the Ayn Rand thought of the day. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the 33 strategies of war.
And finally, from Strategies of Psychotherapy by Jay Haley. Inevitably, a patient entering analysis begins to use ploys which have placed him one up in previous relationships. This is called a neurotic pattern. The analyst learns to devastate these maneuvers of the patient. A simple way, for example, is to respond inappropriately to what the patient says. This places the patient in doubt about everything he has learned in relationships with other people. The patient may say, "Everyone should be truthful," hoping to get the analyst to agree with him and thereby follow his lead. He who follows another lead is one down. The analyst may reply with silence, a rather weak ploy in this circumstance, or he may say, "Oh?" The "oh" is given just the proper inflection to imply, "How on earth could you have ever conceived such an idea?" This not only places the patient in doubt about his statement, but in doubt about what the analyst means by "oh." Doubt is, of course, the first step toward one-downness. When in doubt, the patient tends to lean on the analyst to resolve the doubt, and we lean on those who are superior to us. Analytic maneuvers designed to arouse doubt in a patient are instituted early in analysis. For example, the analyst may say, "I wonder if that's really what you're feeling." The use of "really" is standard in analytic practice. It implies the patient has motivations of which he is not aware. Anyone feels shaken, and therefore one down, when this suspicion is placed in his mind.
And that was the end of chapter 28. Give your rivals enough rope to hang themselves, from the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene. Back in a minute. Thank you. And if you're a Democrat, you want to vote Republican because the late modern achievement subject is free, in that it does not encounter repression on the part of sovereign entities external to itself. But in reality, it is just as unfree as the obedient subject. Once exterior repression is overcome, pressure builds within. Thus, the achievement subject develops depression. The violence persists unabated. It merely shifts to the interior. The stages of the topological transformation of violence are decapitation in the sovereignty society, deformation in the disciplinary society, and depression in the achievement society. Violence is increasingly internalized, psychologized, and thus rendered invisible. More and more, it rids itself of the negativity of the other or the enemy, becoming self-referential. Back in a minute. Thank you. I received a criticism of my podcast a couple of days ago, and it was, I believe, episode 1662, Weicker Saturday. But anyways, the criticism was as follows. I can't believe anyone actually listens to this crap. My response? Why not? You did. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Management of the Absurd, Chapter 10. In communication, form is more important than content. When we witness a red-faced executive shouting, "Who's excited? I'm not excited," we realize that the feeling is much more important than the words. That's why, in all communication, it's crucial to listen to the music as well as the lyrics, the feeling behind the words as well as the words themselves. Similarly, we are well aware that a written message carries more weight than a spoken one, and among written messages, one that is printed is weightier than one that is typed. One that is typed is more weighty than one that is handwritten, even though the words may be identical. The mode of expression, it would seem, is more important than the words. We all realize, for example, that when a telephone call to a company is answered by a receptionist with a British accent, the person is more likely to convey an image of being unusually intelligent and better organized, creating a positive impression of the corporation itself. Indeed, the idea of corporate image conveyed in letterheads, annual reports, advertising, and even buildings is a triumph of form over content. The power of the invisible. One of the most subtle examples of this phenomenon is something I call meta-messages. They tend to be invisible, but are nevertheless indelible. Consider, for instance, the hidden curriculum of a school as described by social critic Ivan Illich. We are all aware that adults do not retain much of what they were taught in school as children. Most of us could not pass a 7th grade history exam or calculate a square root, even though we once could. But we all retain what was taught in the hidden curriculum. We learn to sit still, raise our hands, wait in line, obey adult authority, and ask permission. We also learned that teachers tend to be women, administrators men, that there are certain things we can talk about and things we shouldn't, and so forth. We never forgot those lessons because they were not taught as part of the actual curriculum, but rather by the ritual or form of education. Each was a meta-message. In all of life, the meta-message tends to be more powerful than the message itself. I see this in management training programs in particular. The very existence of such programs conveys the mistaken message, even for those people who do not take the training, that management is a skill that can be taught and learned quickly. But as I have noted earlier, effective management is not a matter of acquiring skills. There are many ways to do the job. When the meta messages of management training programs say otherwise, an impossible burden is imposed on even seasoned managers. Invariably, their newly acquired skills desert them. They end up feeling inadequate and obliged to take action, any action, with sometimes regrettable consequences. Where we sit matters. For another example of form over content, look at how we arrange ourselves at business meetings. There's a great difference between sitting at the customary oblong table with the leader at the head and sitting around a circular table at which no distinction is made for the leader. The same people with the same agenda may be seated at both tables, but a very different meeting ensues. If the table is removed and people are seated in a circle of chairs exposed to each other, the meeting will also be predictably different. It will become even more different if people remove their jackets and ties, and still more different if they take off their shoes and sit on the floor. At each of these stages, the discussion becomes less formal, more participative, more personal. Nothing has changed except the form, and yet because of that, everything has changed. We are only too well aware of the meta-messages in the design of an office. Almost anyone will become more intimidating when they sit in a large corner office with carpeting, an expansive desk, a leather chair with a high back, and other symbols of executive authority. Remembering the rituals. All of this teaches us we may be so concerned about the content of what we say or write that we often forget the form. Yet the feelings, the rituals, the arrangements, the social and physical design, all that is implied by the way we organize and communicate an experience are crucially important. When they are taken into account, it is possible to send meta-messages that are consonant with the intended message and reinforce rather than undermine it. And that was Chapter 10 of Management of the Absurd by Richard Farson, Paradoxes in Leadership. Next week, Chapter 11, Listening is More Difficult Than Talking. Back in a minute. Thank you. The following is one of my voiceover demos. If you're a voiceover artist and you would like to advertise one of your demos on my podcast, please send an MP3 to thedrill12, all one word, at gmail.com. That's thedrill12 at gmail.com. Back in a minute.
Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there, and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.